Hello and welcome to another video. So in this video we'll be looking at absolute value inequalities. So you see, it's not absolute value equations and it is not just inequalities, it's a combination of both. Now the good thing about this is that you can just solve it as if you were solving any inequality, except that you just have to recognize the property of an absolute value expression. If you get that, this wouldn't be a problem. So I have two questions just to explain the concept, okay? It'll be the same thing basically I'll be explaining, but I chose these questions because there are some things I find that students often do which makes them get the wrong answer in either of these two cases. So let's start with that. So firstly, you do not want to start doing any plus or minus interpretation unless the absolute value expression is alone. That's the first thing. So you want to make sure that this expression is alone on the left-hand side and everything else that's around it, you have to move away. So now the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this 3 and then get rid of this 2. But as you can see, the first thing is get rid of the 3. This 2 is bound to this expression by a multiplication. So you don't want to do that first. And don't do 3 minus 2 because 3 minus 2 will be a mathematical disaster, okay? You can't subtract something that's multiplying another thing from it. So the first thing is, this is loosely held here, subtract it from both sides, and then you can divide both sides by -2. This is it. So let's say we take 3 away from both sides. Okay, we're going to end up with -2. Absolute value of 2x minus 8 is less than, this is going to be 0. Okay, so now that you've got 0, what do you do next? Divide both sides by -2. And you notice that I took this -2 along. Don't forget about the negative, it's a part of it. Now, divide both sides by -2 means you got to flip the sign. Whenever you divide by a negative number and you have an inequality, you must flip the sign. If it was less than, it becomes greater. If it was greater, it becomes less. Don't ever forget that or your answer will be wrong. Okay, so I'm going to divide both sides by -2 now. And if I divide this by -2, I get 2x minus 8. Then this sign flips to greater than. 0 divided by -2 is still 0. Now this is where you need to pay the best attention. Now, if we were solving an equation, okay, this wouldn't be a problem because we don't have to think of greater than or less than. Imagine an inequality without these bars. Let's say it was like this. 2x minus 8 equals 0. Yeah, 2x minus 8 equals 0. Or let's just say is greater than 0. You just solve it. You just say 2x is greater than 8 and x is greater than 4 and you're done. But it's absolute value. It's not, so we could have solved this and said 2x is greater than 8 and x is greater than 8 over 2, which will be 4. And this will be your answer. You just go to your number line, okay? Go to your number line, you call this 4, and this goes here, and this would be a circle here. And that would be your answer if this was just a simple inequality. But it's absolute value. And what does this mean? This means that the expression in here can be what we just said. It's also possible that the expression we have here could be the opposite sign because it's possible that, because what we're saying is, listen, this is the point 0 on the number line. How many steps do you need to take so that you'll get to this expression on the number line? This expression says it is greater than 0. It means it's not 0 steps you're going to take. You're going to take a certain number of steps. Okay, so it's possible that this expression is on this side, 2x minus 8. It's also possible that this expression is -2x minus 8, or it's the negative of it, so that the number of steps you take, whether you go to the right or to the left, I wanted to say to the right or to the wrong, okay, or to the left, will still be greater than 0. Now, if it was an equation, you know how people say, let's say if this was 1, because I want to clarify everything before we move on. If this was the number 1, let's clean this up. If this was 1, oh, it would be much easier. You would just say 2x minus 8 is greater than 1, okay? Or you say 2x minus 8, now you now say is less than -1. People do this like this. Now, I don't want you to get confused about anything like this, okay? They switch it, they put a negative, if that's what you want to do. But let me tell you what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is leave this sign the way it is. Write yourself two options, okay? So I'm going to leave this sign and I'm going to say 2x minus 8 is greater than 0. An alternative to this is if this was a negative expression, I'll just say negative 2x minus 8 in parenthesis is greater than 0. It's either this or both. You don't know. Let's see what it's going to be. Okay, so now 2x minus 8, we can now solve this and say 2x is greater than 8, so x is greater than 4. That is one option. Okay, if we look at this side, open this up, negative 2x plus 8 is greater than 0. Can take 8 to that side. We have negative 2x is greater than negative 8. Divide both sides by negative 2x. You have x, this sign is going to switch, is less than 4. That's how you solve that. So look at what we've got. We have x is less than 4, so this is the number line, and in both cases we got 4, 4. But this case, x is less than 4, x comes all the way this way. You go this way, x is greater than 4, but x is not 4. So there is no intersection, there is nothing common to this side or this side. You have to use the notation union and the expression or, okay? So what you have is x is either greater than 4 or x is less than 4. So either x is greater than 4 or x is less than 4. That's the thing. And when you use the expression or in inequalities, you're talking about a union. That's a U. So I'm going to write this answer this way because on the number line it looks like this. Let me write the number line. So it's going to look like this. And this is 4. Or you can write it this way, that because this comes from negative infinity up to just before 4, union from 4 up to infinity. And this is the answer, this is the answer, and you can also write it as x is greater than 4 or x is less than 4. So these three ways are ways you can express your final answer in that case. I hope that made sense. Okay, remember, don't try to change the sign here, because if you try to say positive 0 or negative 0, 0 doesn't have positive or negative. Okay, so this was a good exercise for you to see. Always change the sign of the expression, forget about whatever is on the right hand side. Let's see how this is going to look. So for this question, like I said in the previous example, in this example, don't start thinking about anything in the argument of the absolute value expression until you have moved away everything else. Okay, so let's move this away to the other side first, and then we can start thinking of what we're doing. Okay, so we have absolute value of negative 1 over 3x plus 1 is less than or equal to when. So what really does this expression mean, or this inequality mean? It simply means on the number line, if you start at 0, you want to take a certain number of steps so you can get to this expression on the number line. You have to see the expression on the number line, okay? So the expression is either here or the expression is here, okay? So let me just put a box here. That's where this expression is in here. So it's possible that this expression is on the right or on the left, okay? The number of steps you will take from 0 to get to that expression is less than 1, which means if you take, you can't even take a full step. So if you start from 0, you can only go as far as here, and this number is before 1. And if you go this way, this number is before 1. I mean, this is before negative 1, this is before positive 1, because the number of steps you can take is strictly, less than or equal to. So it's possible that you can take a step that is as far as 1 or before 1, but you see that you can't go beyond this point. So when you solve this inequality, unlike in this case where it was beyond 4, you have to go past 4. In this case, you just have to stay within a certain range. So when we solve this, you're going to get an answer where the solution for one side and the solution for the other side intersect in a way that intersection, okay, is a common ground, and that's your solution. So it's possible that everything goes all the way, everything goes all the way, but the intersection is the region we're looking for. So whenever you get less than or equal to, you are likely to get an intersection. In fact, you will always get an intersection. You will always get an intersection because your movement is restricted. Whenever your question says, your answer at the end of the day says greater than, like this final expression says greater than, okay? Remember, you make a decision after you've isolated everything, not the question from the beginning, okay? Because it says greater than, at this point, you're going to say, okay, my answer is going to be something on the other side, something on the other side, and then I'm going to have to do a union of both of them, or use the term or, okay? So let's see how this works out. So now, I'm going to write this just as I did here. It's going to be negative 1 over 3x plus 1 is less than or equal to 1, okay? And because I know I'm going to get an intersection, that's why I'm using the expression and. In this case, it is or. It's an alternative. Okay, that's what you use. So in this case, it's going to be and, because that tells you you need to have an intersection. So in this case, remember, we're going to change the sign here. So it's going to be negative 1 over 3x plus 1 is less than or equal to 1. Notice I didn't change the sign. So don't change the sign. If the sign will change by itself, you'll find it in the calculation. So here we go. We have, so I'm going to take this away from here and have negative 1 over 3x is less than or equal to 0. So if I solve this by dividing both sides by negative 1/3, well, because I'm dividing by negative, this sign is going to change, and I'm still going to get 0 here, and x is going to be greater than 0. And then I go to this side, I have, again, this is what students typically do, which is not a problem. You can actually say that this expression is greater than or equal to the negative. You just change the sign and put this a negative here as a second option. That's fine, which is the effect of what we're doing here. So you have 1 over 3x minus 1 is less than or equal to 1. You add 1 to both sides, you're going to get 1 over 3x is less than or equal to 2, so x will be less than or equal to 6. So as you can see, we have two answers. X is greater than 0 and x is less than 6. Let's see how that looks like on the number line. So on the number line, it's going to be like this. This is the 0.6. This is the 0.0. Okay, this one says x is greater than 0, so x is going forever to the right. Remember I told you there's going to be an intersection. Okay, now in this case, x is less than or equal to 6, so it's going to be shaded solid, shaded solid. So this region will satisfy it, this region will satisfy it. So it looks like this. This is supposed to come all the way this way, and this is supposed to go all the way that way. So you can see that the region that satisfies it is from 0 to 6 inclusive. So on the number line, this is going to be like this. This is the region. This region here is the region that satisfies the inequality. Now that we know what it's going to look like on a number line, well, if you choose to make this sign, all this wiggly lines, it's okay to do that, okay? Depending on your professor or your instructor. But what I'm saying is that if you leave it on the number line, it's going to be like this, shaded circles, or you can use interval notation. Interval notation will tell you that it starts at 0 and it ends at 6, strictly. That's one way to write your answer. Another way to write your answer is to use what you call the compact notation, okay? The compact notation just simply means that it goes from 0 to infinity, but it is intersected by another answer which comes from 6 to negative infinity. So you can also have your answer written this way. So we can say it starts from 0 strictly and goes all the way to infinity, but it is intersected. This is and, that expression, okay? It is intersected by the expression that starts from negative infinity, okay, and ends at 6 strictly. So you can see this is the intersection. You can write it this way, you can write it this way. See, the interval notation just says strictly from 0 to 6. It's just a modification of this. I hope you learned something. Well, another way is just leave it as the raw answers there. This and this. That's another way you can state your answer. X is greater than 0 and x is greater than or equal to 0 and x is less than or equal to 6. Actually, that's what this expression means. That's how you read it. That's how you read this. Well, that's what it means. If you learned something in this video, give it a thumbs up. See you in the next video. Never stop learning, because those who stop learning have stopped living.